Hi, this is Alex from MetalSoft, and in this quick video, I want to show you some of the exciting updates that we are introducing in the 7.2 version of our software with regards to the network aspect, the network provisioning part, which we call the Fabric Manager. And if you're familiar with MetalSoft, you may recall that in previous versions, we were able to do logical networks. Right? What logical networks means, interconnect particular servers with particular existing logical networks, which were VLANs or other, layer 2 VNIs or EPGs, depending on the underlying system. And it could do something like this and interconnect them, right? And you would hit deploy, and MetalSoft will go and will talk to the respective switches and configure the ports of the servers that are required to be configured to connect, the respective logical networks to the server. Now, this is all good, and this is typically what takes a lot of the pain out of managing day-to-day activities. But a lot of our customers have been asking us for underlay configuration as well, and this 7.2 introduces that, right? And so with the new UI that we've introduced, because it's a brand new UI to support this underlay configuration, we've also introduced a few interesting concepts, among which concept of a fabric, which is not strictly 7.2, but it's been expanded here so that you can now have multiple fabrics. All these, the equipment that's, are all equipments are part of a fabric or another, but you can have multiple fabrics. You can have an InfiniBand fabric, a fiber channel fabric, multiple Ethernet fabrics, and then the logical networks that the tenant will be deploying will be coming out of those fabrics, right? So to configure the underlay of one particular fabric, you would go you would use this editor here or the API, which is highly advanced and complete, and I encourage you, and maybe if we have time I will show you as well. And this is how it looks like, right? And you go up the stack from the physical layer all the way to the underlay, and you say, okay, I want to have a connection between this switch and this switch, and I guess it's because I already have one here. So you would define the connections that are in between the respective switches. Uh, Currently, you have to manually specify which these are, whether you have uplinks between the switches. In the future, we plan to auto discover them. Right. Once you have these, then you can go up the stack and you can specify peer links, and they are connections, and then they're represented like this, and so you know that these two devices are part of the same peer link. Then you go up the stack and to the logical link layer, and depending on how the connections are, you can see they're represented differently. I have a little circle here, and you can see that you have connections over, in this case, multiple lags or M-lag connections between the peer links, right? And then you go one layer up, and then you can create BGP sessions between them. The representation may change in the future, but the underlying system remains the same. You can say, I want a BGP unnumbered session to be created between these between these two peers across this particular link, right? And you say something like this, and then you hit deploy, and the system will deploy the entire set of configurations that are required, starting from the from the logical layer, the logical link layer, and the underlay. And we use the appropriate syntax that's required for each individual device that's underneath. So if it's Cisco, we use Cisco specific language. If it's Sonic, we use Sonic. Juniper, apps, Arista. It's all configured differently depending on the system. There's some other exciting things that are in this version. The fact that you can pair with external systems, and the fact that we have fabric interconnects, which allow you to do what's called data center interconnects, DCI, for some vendors. So not all vendors are supported, but we're starting with Dell switches, and we're adding support for others as well. And what this will do is that it will allow you to, besides connecting them to a fabric, it will allow you to then on top of the fabric interconnect have logical network interconnect. So if you have an infrastructure like this in one data center and a similar one in another data center, you'll be able to interconnect. Basically, logical networks will span across the two data centers, right? And so this is a very exciting addition to MetalSoft, and there's some others. I'm not going to go through it all, among which the VRF management. We now have this the route domain concept, and when you create a logical network, you get asked to 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 basically specify if you want things to be in a particular VRF, right? And the same route domain concept is used also for specifying which whether you want to do layer 3 VNI for with symmetric RB or not as part of the logical network creation, where we create switch virtual interfaces on the switches using IP anycast, right? And that's all done automatically. All you have to do is specify that you want a particular configuration to be set. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these. These are new items in this new interface, but they correspond to what we had before, switch ZTP, operating system templates, and firmware upgrades, and all that, right? So as I mentioned before, we have a very good API, and so you can control everything through the API. You can build your own scripts. And it's also particularly well suited for AI-based automation. So these allow you to have a deterministic set of functionalities. You can use the API or the MCP servers that are available to effect changes on the equipment and to interact with the equipment in a safe way, because MetalSoft interposes itself and it's a deterministic layer on top of that equipment on which you can add intelligence. We ourselves also have obviously some AI agents, but I'm not going to talk about it here. There's going to be a dedicated video for this. So yeah, there's very exciting things coming up. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.